was a lot younger, around my early teens, I had a pen pal who I would exchange emails with. Her name was Natsume, and she lived in Japan. I found out she would be visiting America around summer vacation as part of a club or activity, or something along those lines. My mother, who worked for a travel company at the time, was able to get a little miniature trip pulled together for us to go to Boston, where Natsume would be staying. I was excited about meeting my pen pal in person. It's something I looked forward to greatly. I spent the better part of 2 months wondering what she would be like in person, if she spoke good English for us to understand each other, etc. Well, it turned out to be all for nothing. After several days in Boston, we were unable to get together, except for a very brief moment the night before I was going home. She'd been on tours and all that sort of stuff with her club, so we didn't get a chance to meet up due to all those structured activities. My mother, as you can imagine, was not pleased. That trip was not terribly expensive, but it wasn't like we were traveling for free. We went to where Natsume was staying, had the TripAdvisor bring her downstairs, and my mom went off on her. I can definitely understand her reasoning. Meeting her was the entire point of the trip. So, long story short, that was the end of my pen pal correspondence with Miss Natsume. Now, here's where things get strange. On that same night, I went for a little stroll outside the hotel. There was a Wendy's I could see was open from the hotel room. My mom was asleep, and I had $5 burning a hole in my pocket. Plus, my little delinquent ass wanted to smoke outside where it was nice and cool. As I stepped outside through one of the fire doors of the hotel, I lit up a cigarette, and a guy, in his late 20s I'm guessing, approached me. He asked me what I was doing. I said I was going to the Wendy's. His exact response was, "I'm pretty sure your mother told you not to walk over there without her." Which she had. I didn't really piece together the weirdness of that until later, so I just lied and said she gave me the okay. I started walking, and he walked alongside me, puffing on a cigarette of his own. He asked me if I ever got to see my pen pal, and I told him I hadn't. "Sorry, kid," he told me. "But if she came here with people from her school, there was no way they'd let her run around Boston with you and your mom. She should have known better." I quickly realized that this man I'd never met before knew things there was no way he could have known about me. For starters, this was back at a time when there was no Wi-Fi everywhere. You had to plug your internet into the wall at the hotel, so it's not like I'd been on the internet announcing my plans and crap. We didn't own a laptop. Hell, we didn't even use the hotel phone the entire time we were there. Who the hell was this guy? And how does he know so much about me? Asking seems like a really bad idea, so I didn't. He walked me all the way to the Wendy's. "Hurry up and get your food, kid," he told me. "I won't tell if you won't, just make it quick. It's late." Well, I got my food. The creepy man stood outside the restaurant while I ate. Then when I got out, he escorted me back to the hotel. We talked a little about video games as we walked. Sonic Adventure 2 specifically, because I'd been playing it religiously before coming on this trip. Before we parted ways, the man told me, "If your mom asks, just lie and say you were in the exercise room, and throw your cup out before you go upstairs." I'd been dicking around in the exercise room every night at the hotel. I liked playing on the treadmill and pumping iron. This person, who I never met before, who I never saw again, knew so much about me that he could pass for my older brother. I still wonder about it to this day. And this seems like a good place as any to tell the story. What a strange trip.
Number 2.
This happened several years ago now to my husband back when we were dating. During this time, we were both in college and were both working at a bookstore cafe in a nice, pretty, affluent suburban area. One day, he was on his lunch break when he decided to drive over to the Wendy's across the street from the bookstore. He pulled in the driveway and was about to go through the drive-thru when a crazed-looking girl and guy approached his car rather aggressively and seemingly out of nowhere. They both looked dirty and disheveled. The girl's hair was a mess and their skin and teeth looked messed up, and even though they weren't very large people, they both had very odd, crazed looks in their eyes. Now, my husband isn't the type to be paranoid or scared of people, and typically if someone comes up to talk to him, he'll respond and doesn't want to come off as rude. However, he got a bad feeling about this guy and girl and was glad his doors were locked when they approached. They walked right up to his car and tried to get him to roll down the window so they could talk to him. He rolled it down just a crack. Again, he's not a paranoid person, but I'm glad his gut told him something was off in this situation. The two started telling him about this story, how they supposedly ran out of gas or money to buy gas and they needed to get home. They said that they just needed a ride to the Farmer Jack grocery store that was just a couple of blocks down the street where their friend worked. Supposedly, this friend was working at the time and had promised to help them out and give them some money if they could get to him. Now, several things were off about this story. First of all, it was a beautiful summer day, not too hot, not raining, or anything. And if their friend worked 2 blocks down the street and it was so urgent that they reach him to get the money that they had been promised, it made absolutely no sense that they wouldn't just walk there themselves. The second thing that made no sense is that Farmer Jack had, by this time, gone out of business a while ago and no longer existed. The two were begging my husband quite desperately to give them a ride at this point. He said that the only thing that kept going through his head was that if he let them in the car, he could easily imagine the crazy-looking girl pulling a gun or something out of her purse. Instead, he told them that he was sorry he couldn't help, but was on his lunch break and was in a rush. Although they kept telling him it would only take a minute since it was just a couple blocks away. Once they finally realized he wasn't going to give them a ride, they asked him if he had any money he could give them. He said he didn't. Then, the guy asked if he at least had a cigarette. My husband doesn't smoke and told them he didn't have a cigarette either. Once he rolled up his window and started driving away, they quickly scurried away and disappeared. He's convinced they were probably meth addicts and has no clue what they wanted. Although, he's pretty sure that if he had given them a ride, things would not have turned out good.